Hey guys, welcome back to Hardcore. I'm Chell, that's Miko,
Hi, everyone.
and we are starting where we left off last week. I am far less tired this week, so if you're tuning in immediately after last episode where I physically could not words anymore, it is a week later and I can words again, which is fantastic. So I appreciate you last week, Miko, thanking you now for really just pivoting that episode, taking over where I could no longer, and just being like, we should split this into two. So, gratitude.
Anytime.
But today we are going to continue from where we left off. So, we are going to look at channels, gates, and a little bit more into the pearl sequence. Exciting times here. Start us off, won't you?
Thank you for the intro. As pretty much always, we've kind of slipped into you introducing, and I love it. I'm so happy about this.
And I feel like you just put me in it. You're like, start the recording, let's go, and then I just go.
Yep.
That's what you want.
Turn on the manifester, and they go. We're going to start with the money line. That is the channel 2145, also known as the channel of money. But we're going to demystify it right away. It doesn't mean that if you do have it, that you're going to make lots of money. It also always depends on which planets are defining it, which lines are even defining it, and how balanced you are yourself and how much you follow your strategy and inner authority. And if you don't do these basic steps in human design, if you don't really do your self-work and figure out how you can best use these elements, it can actually be quite a struggle, because the money line is, well, one gate is about managing and controlling resource with discipline and foresight, and you have on the other side the gate 45, which is going to allocate these resources. So one is about really collecting it, gathering the resources together. That's gate 21, the hunter/huntress. And on the other side, gate 45 is called the gatherer, but it is more about allocating the resources to the right people, to the right causes, and understanding who's worth these resources. And however you define this worth, that is your personal value system. So there is a lot that plays a role in this money line, and we have heard that having this money line within your own chart can be quite complicated and can be quite difficult at times, because it is said that having this as an electromagnetic connection can often be easier for individuals than having it within yourself. There can be conflict that arise, and you have a tendency to burn yourself out and to really go over the point of no return, and you start to break and crumble and really just over exhaust yourself, especially when you are a non-energetic being. So if you don't have any motor centers defined, that can be very challenging. But if you don't have any motor centers defined, you wouldn't have the full channel. So the ego is always going to be defined in this case. And that means that if you have the money line, you're either a manifester or you are a manifesting generator. Those are the two options here. And we are going to take a look at our fellow manifester today, Celestina, because she has firsthand experiences with this money line. So tell us your experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So I was born on June 12th, 1992. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to start that far back. Exactly what you said though earlier, Miko, is right. Like, it's called the money line, and you think that, yo, I'm just going to be rolling in it. I'm going to demystify that for you. Your girl's not rolling in it. There are times where money kind of just comes out of nowhere and it really surprises me, which is dope. And those are usually things that I've had a massive heart pull towards and didn't necessarily know that there would be an exchange, right? Like that energetic exchange, like that monetary exchange in reward too. And that's usually when I get surprised by it. From the healthy expression of this line, there is a lot of leadership, I think, that comes through here, right? Leading by bringing people together through collaboration, seeing that there is abundance in all, right? Like, again, if your heart's in it and you have this line, that there is abundance if you are following your strategy and authority. However, the unhealthy expression, which I think I've experienced both sides of these coins. And I was saying to Miko, had we had this discussion 5 months ago, I don't think I would have been ready to have this conversation. Doing the deeper introspection, I think, is super important in your life, in your world to learn, right? So the unhealthy expression of this can manifest itself as power struggles, lack of trust, and burnout. In my instance, you guys can see my chart if you're watching on the screen. This is my only channel, right? So burnout has been ever present in my life, I would say, since I started working. Honestly, even in high school. But I think the difference in a school format is that there is like an end date to a semester. There's an end date to a school year where you can just be done and recharge. But as an adult, there's no end date necessarily to a job. There's no end date if you are an entrepreneur or something along those lines, right? So you kind of have to build in this these downtimes for yourself. And we actually discussed this in the first part of this episode last week when we were talking about manifestors as a whole, but this also applies to manifesting generators. Whoever has this channel really is you have to build in chill times. You have to build in rest because burnout is and can be very real for this channel. Like Miko was saying, it's a lot easier if you have this with an electromagnetic rather than someone having it themselves. So if you have it as an electromagnetic, you can physically separate yourself from the person that you share this electromagnetic with and be in your own space and be in your own energy and have the time and space to be away from it to mitigate that burnout. But having it all in one, there can definitely be some power struggle aspect of it as well, in addition to the burnout. So what I experienced was that when I'm in my power in this channel, I'm big, I'm bold, and I'm typically the mouthpiece for the team or whomever, right? And in my last job, there was an owner who did not like that. And I don't think, did not trust women, did not know how to speak to women, and while saw that I was doing well in the position, didn't like how well I was doing in that position. So there was this unspoken power struggle in addition to mistrust that was created by that. And the power struggle aspect of it, I think, was addressed in one conversation. I was there maybe 3 months and we were doing very well. But that person's concern with me was that I was doing too much of the leadership for the whole restaurant. But again, if you guys recall, if you've heard any of these conversations, I was working with a reflector who didn't have access to his throat. So I was literally the mouthpiece and leader for the space and for the people that we worked with. So it was very interesting to see that. I didn't feel the power struggle. I felt as though from the team itself that I worked with on a day-to-day basis, it was leadership, right? It was bringing the team together in collaboration. But externally, it was viewed as a power struggle because someone lost something when I was put into that role. It was very interesting. And I think from now in hindsight, most of that could have been mitigated had communication been better. And I think this is something to note, right? So if you guys are in an ebb and flow of an unhealthy expression of this, communication is key. You have a direct line to your throat from what your heart is telling you. And yeah, it's scary sometimes to speak what's on your heart, but this is what's going to change the game and allow you to express clearly, get you out of burnout and into a more healthy expression. So when it comes to leadership, that's one thing. When it comes to money and being able to manifest what you need in your world, you need to be able to express it and doing so in a healthy way. If you're talking about not enoughness and lack, that's what you're going to get because that's what you're saying is on your heart. Whereas if you're expressing yourself in a positive, like money positive way, exchange of energy, I am worth this, I will receive X, Y, and Z, you need to say that. So clear communication, not just to get out of burnout, not just to mitigate those power struggles, but to actually be manifesting, wow, that's not a word, manifesting money and manifesting wealth for yourself communication's really key. And then educating and empowering. So using those resources that you have to educate and empower, yes, others around you, but also yourself, man. Speak out to what you want. And I think that's the biggest thing with this channel. And I don't do it enough, right? Like, I'm saying this now and I'm having all of these aha moments in my head, but like, speak out what you want, educate yourself, empower yourself, right? Like, it's from within. And I think that's the biggest thing with this channel is like, or really anything that you have directly connected to your throat. You have the power to manifest it. You just have to speak it out. And with this channel in particular, you have to really want it, right? Your willpower. What do you really freaking want in your world? Speak it out. So that was a very long explanation of my positive and negative experiences with this channel, but it's literally my whole world is this channel. So it's interesting to experience it and feel it. And in my case in particular, the 45.6 is in my sun and my 21.2 is in Mercury, right? Yeah, it's in my Mercury or my design Mercury. So it definitely hits different when that's the case. I think I feel more into the 45 than the 21, in part because the 21's on my design, but also because the 45 is my sun. So as we always say, it depends on where these land on your chart as to how impactful you'll feel them in your life as well. But I think the biggest thing you can do positively for yourself if you have the money line is to really step into leadership. Align your leadership with the values that you have. And your values are going to be your own, right? I can't tell you what those are, but whatever those are in your world, go through a list. And maybe there's so many lists online. So if you don't know what your values are, go through a list, like just research, like, what are some values? Circle through them, because that could be really helpful in determining what really resonates with you if you've never put words to what your values are. And I think the other big thing is, yes, you are a leader, but man, collaboration feels really good. And bringing people together who you really trust in the process feels really good. That's also going to help mitigate burnout in the long run. Hopefully that's helpful. What questions do you have for me, Miko? I feel like you've just been listening patiently for the last 10 minutes as I've rambled, and I appreciate that.
I feel like it's only been 2, but okay. Let's split the difference. It's more of an observation because you have 45.6 and that is the leadership line. You have it in your sun, yes, that's how you shine your light, but you also have it in your Venus. And the Venus is all about values. And you've just mentioned and pointed out those 2 aspects, figure out your values and step into leadership. And that is very, very correct for you. I think, well, yes, you have the 21.2 in your Mercury, in your unconsciousness. So that's why you've already said that you connect more with gate 45. And for the whole money line, you've said something that is very important. The team that you're working with is crucial. The people that you're working with is crucial because you are able to guide people in a very specific way. And when you don't get along with the people that you're working with, that's where the challenge happens. And this is what we saw in your last job. You were getting along really well with the team, but when it came to the leadership positions above you, that's first of all a challenge for you when we look at your chart, because you are here to be in charge. And someday soon you will be more and more in charge, I feel. You are someone with your 45.6, you bring people together. Even outsiders. So you're really good at seeing the people for who they are, making them comfortable in who they are, and using their strengths for who they are in the positions that they're in. And you're going to also place them in the right positions because you can see this uniqueness about them. On the other hand, you have gate 21.2, and that is pushing you to take strong, necessary action. So you often cross boundaries when you feel like it's necessary to make a change. And this is also what happened. The heads of the former job that you were in, when you felt like your team was not being supported enough, that's when you stepped in. And that's when you said, hey, okay, this needs to change. Otherwise, I'm out. So these are two very specific to you elements, but for everyone in that does have the money line or the channel, the full channel 4521, just make sure you're working with the right people and you feel comfortable with the team that you want to lead or even work with. Not everyone is going to have this strong 45.6 position. For Celestina in particular, she will need to first ground herself into the sales aspect, the marketing aspect, the how am I going to bring this to the individuals that are going to purchase my product. So she kind of has to think ahead and kind of figure out, okay, what is it that am I aligned with the product that I'm selling? This is the first step, because this is where she gets the grounding. If she's not going to be aligned with the project or product that she's selling, it's not going to work. And you need to have this vision, this insight as to, yeah, okay, I'm aligned with it, I feel comfortable selling it, I even believe in it. Then gather the right team to get that done, and then allocate the right resources to the right people. How does that feel to you?
100%. That's it. 100%. But like you said, this is to me. So I think it's important that, like, when you do have this line or you do create an electromagnetic with someone, you have to look at the line number within the gate itself, right? Like, you really have to get down to the nitty gritty and determine what that feels like and means for you.
Absolutely. And when you look at a human design chart in Maya Mechanics, for example, when you then click on the gate, you will always get a more accurate description. You will see if someone is in exaltation or if they're in detriment, and you will see the actual description for their line. So those are really important insights. So yes, line plays a huge role. And while we're speaking about lines, so the other element that we would look at when we're looking at where individuals can make money would be the gates that have line 3 in them. So everywhere where you have a line 3, North Node and South Node, I would personally not really look at as a first instance because it's more about your environment, but you can look at her Mercury, her Mars, and on the other side, again, we have the nodes, but we wouldn't really look at those necessarily. And then we have Uranus, we have her design moon, and we have Jupiter. So these are the 4, or the 5, disqualifying the nodes for now. Those are the 5 that we would focus on. How does she communicate? What does she enjoy communicating about? The Mars energy is always one that evolves throughout her life. So it is not something that she has down from the get-go, especially when it comes to the third line. So the third line, while it is a potential where you can make money, you need to understand that this is something where you're going to struggle. You're going to fall, you're going to get knocked down, and you have to get back up. And this is how you learn, this is how you grow, this is how you get to understand, okay, this is how I can make money in these aspects. So personally, we're not going to go through all the gates here right now, but just look at where you have a third line and identify the meaning of these gates. Try to understand where they're located, which planets are defining them. And then you will also get to understand how to work with these elements.
One more super random note with this. This whole line is not just about manifesting financial abundance for yourself, but also for the community that you're impacting, right? And that happens when you're coming at all of this with integrity, the intent to empower others rather than quell them, and to kind of balance the control that you have with also being flexible. Right? That's how you really unlock. Oh my God, that was so New York. That's how you really unlock all of the potential of this channel. So super random today, he bumped into me, the new manager of the restaurant that I managed. And he's like, yeah, this month's been rough. The last 2 months have been really rough. in comparison to last year's numbers. Who was in charge of last year's numbers? Ya girl was. Who had a dream team last year? Ya girl did. So what I'm trying to say is it wasn't a fluke that the restaurant did well under my leadership. I came at it with literally all of those things, right? Leading with integrity, empowering others on my team, and doing it for the community that I was working for. It happened to benefit the owners more so than me, but that's to show you that, again, it may not be money in your pocket necessarily, because I didn't get no bonuses from that, but it definitely impacts the community that you lead. So I thought that was a fun little nugget that I just stumbled into today, super randomly.
Yeah, it's a very, very good and important point for this line. It is for the community, for the tribe even. So it is a tribal line. Apart from the lines and the gates that you can look at, I personally, of course, enjoy looking at the asteroids. There are several ones that you can look at. When it comes to human design, there are only a few that will be shown in taraka.io. So keep that in mind. But a few of them, or one of them that would be available would be Fortuna. And that can show you in which elements you could have good fortune. Maida's, so Maida or Maida's touch kind of element, you can also look at that, but it would be, Maida's touch, everything he touched turned into gold, and that can be a bad thing at some point because he was starving to death because everything he touched turned into gold, so he couldn't eat. And so it's maybe not the best element to look at, but Fortuna would be one that I would look at. So for now, this is all I'm going to leave you with. Check out Fortuna in your human design. You can find that in taraka.io. And that can give you a little bit of a hint as to where you may be able to make money more easily. And the last part we wanted to talk about is gene keys. So in gene keys, to me, this is one of the best ways to work on your financial abundance because Gene Keys is really strongly centered on inner work. And the challenge with the Gene Keys, however, is that there is a certain sequence that you need to work through before you can become financially abundant. And that to me is just the story of any self-growth aspect. So if you haven't worked on your core elements, then how are you going to be able to work on the financial aspects? And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are wealthy financially or monetarily wealthy. I don't know how happy they are in their private lives, but at least they have a lot of money, even though they may not have it all figured out in the self-growth aspect. They're not aligned and they're still wealthy or rich, I would say, because I don't consider that wealth. But that is just a personal opinion, and if you see it differently, totally get that. Kind of, maybe a little bit. But what I'm trying to say, if you want to be abundant, and that is financially, energetically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, in all aspects, there is a certain sequence that you need to follow. This is the introduction sequence. You kind of need to work through this aspect before you can move on to the Venus sequence, and then you can move on to the Pearl sequence. So this is kind of the path that you need to take. The introduction sequence, as you can see, it's about what is your life's work, which is going to show you, it's a little similar to the incarnation cross in certain aspects, but the life's work is going to show you what are you here to do on this planet. And you will have to work through these elements in order to get to your purpose. You have to figure out what is it I'm here to do and how can I fulfill my purpose. Next, you're going to have to figure out the relationships, or how do you interact with others? How can I improve my relationships with others? And this is romantic relationships, but it's also generally all kinds of relationships. But figuring out what are my core wounds regarding relationships, that is going to help you get to the next level of how can I figure out how to be abundant in my life. And when it comes to the pearl sequence, you can start, you don't really have to start in order of vocation, or you can kind of pick and choose the order to some extent. If you feel pulled more towards what is my brand, then you can start with that. But essentially, you need to work on vocation, brand, and culture before you can reach the pearl. And the pearl is going to help you understand how you can become abundant. Basically, when you're working through this whole process, you're already starting to unleash and open up to abundance, and you're going to start to pull in abundance into your life. But there is a bit of a sequence to that and a bit of a process to the whole thing before you can attain abundance in your life. And that's why I really like the pearl sequence. There's also ways of doing this with human design. It can feel a bit more complex and complicated if you are not very clear on the system. Gene Keys to me is more simple in nature, the way that it is presented to you and the way that it is guiding you through the process. So that's why maybe this is more for you if you really want to unlock the secret to your abundance. So if you have worked through your first aspect of the Gene Keys, then you've worked on the Venus sequence, and then you've reached the pearl, you can see here in this picture, if you're watching, that these are the elements where you can find the certain insights. So just as the life's work is in your sun, you can see it here on the first one, your brand is also in your sun. So this is where you're going to find, when you're looking at the brand gate, that is your sun gate. And that is also the first aspect of the introduction sequence. It's the life's work. The activation sequence. Yes, that's the first one you're doing. You're doing the activation sequence, then you're doing the Venus sequence, and then you're doing the pearl sequence. So if you're looking at the pearl sequence right now on the screen, then you will see that there is sun above the brand, which means your personality sun. Then we have culture, which is quoted as Jupiter. This is your design Jupiter. Then we have the vocation, which is design Mars. And in the center, we have the pearl, which is personality Jupiter. If you want to take a look at what those gates refer to, that could be helpful to know what that refers to in human design. And what those mean is that vocation is usually the starting point as it relates to your core calling or deepest talent. Then we have culture, which is how you fit into the world around you. Then we have your brand. This is how you express your gifts outwardly. So this is kind of just like the sun in some ways, where this is how you shine your light. This is where how you're going to get recognized. This is how you can influence others. And then we have the pearl. And the pearl is the crystallization and integration of all three previous spheres. But yeah, there isn't really an order to things. If you feel more called to one or the other, start there. It usually is easier to start with the brand, honestly, because if you've already worked on the activation sequence, the life's work, you already have a bit of a connection to that element. I hope this helps you to become abundant within yourself and in the material world as well, if you choose to. Anything else you would like to add?
I echo all of that. Guys, remember that even if you don't have these gates or these channels in your chart, doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful, that you're not going to be monetarily abundant, right? That's not the case. So don't be super sad after this episode. It really is about doing the inner work and listening to your strategy and authority to guide you to the opportunities that feel really you. And then when you're in that space, when you're truly aligned in what you're doing, when your cup is filled, that's when the money will come, right? So, like, please listen to yourself for those yeses, for those nos, because they're equally as important as those yeses. And have faith in yourself, have faith in those around you. And if your environment doesn't feel great and you have the opportunity to leave it because it's putting you down a path that doesn't feel good, whether that's burnout or whatever, do your best to get yourself out of that situation. And if that means applying to other positions, amazing. If that means less time at one place and leaning into a side hustle, amazing. Whatever that is for you, right? Do your best to feel into the environment as well as look at these different aspects of your chart.
Absolutely. And just as an addition, we all have everything in our chart. We just have more consistent energy towards certain aspects and less consistent energy in certain aspects. So we are always being activated by other people around us, the planets that are currently in transition. So just bear that in mind as well. There are going to be life is a fluctuation. There are ups and downs all the time for everyone. And there are going to be times where you're going to make more money and other times where you're going to be making less money, and that's just how it is. So thank you everyone for listening or watching, and we hope to see you next time. Bye everyone.
Ciao.